Jump right in. Welcome everybody to another Zoom call. We got a bunch of questions that were submitted. And just a reminder, if you're listening to this and you can submit the questions ahead of time, then pretty much rest assured that they'll be on as in a decent amount of time prior to start of the Zoom call. So we got a bunch to go over. And then you can chat in questions. I think everybody on here is a veteran. Yes, we do have a few new people today. Welcome. We are we record these and they're up on the member site for you to view. So if you can ever get on a Zoom call, you have them access. Reminder again to use your member site for anything new. We don't really have a lot of new things that have been happening, except the 6.2 upgrade to the TrueRife. So we'll talk about that. Information on blood glucose is on the home page of the member site. So if you're taking your blood glucose on a regular basis, you can download a chart to keep track of that. After weeks or longer on that chart, depending on how often you're taking your measurement, take a picture of it and send it to me at labs@connorsclinic.com so we can get it in your chart here at the office. And if I see anything concerning, I will let you know. Remember also, as a member, you have access to all the courses. So if you want to learn more stuff, then you can jump on those courses. And I think the most appropriate, besides the cancer course, would be the autoimmune course. That's the one that I'm updating the most, because that deals with more comorbidities for cancer patients and your family members. Remember also, between Zoom calls, to look at the blog. You can search on that blog button right there. You can search our website. This is on our website. So go to our website and search the blog and for anything. There's 1,000 different blog posts right around there that you may find something that may be of interest to you and answer your question before you have to wait till the next week, Wednesday call. Announcement I announced last week was about the version 6.2 program update with TrueRife. The vast majority of you are running 6.0. If your program is running fine on 6.0, continue to do that. Everybody from about 3 weeks ago on is now running 6.2. So 6.2 is a little bit different. I do think it's an improvement now. Jake at TrueRife has pulled out his hair getting it to work correctly. To begin with, the first week that they were running it, it was an absolute utter catastrophe. We had nothing but problems. Everybody was having problems. They've really done a bang up job getting it all corrected. I do think the whole program is an improvement. Understand, there's no new programs in that. I take it back. There are a few new programs that are only in the 6.2, none that you really need to be concerned about. So not worthy to have you update it to 6.2. If you do, go and update it to 6.2. If you're a computer geek and you know how to do that, and you go to TrueRife's website and you update to 6.2, or you call TrueRife and have them update it to 6.2 for you, understand your programs that I created for you will be gone, disappeared into the abyss, never to be seen again. However, I have them. So, but in order for us to fix it, it's not as easy as sending you a flash drive unless you are really, really savvy with the computer. Because you'll have to send us your computer back to us, and I'll have to get it updated, put your programs in, because there's a little hairy little tweak difference with the 6.2 versus the 6.1 or the 6.0. It goes into a different file. I explain that on the site so you can see that, and it doesn't pertain to hardly anyone on this call. For those that are just received their RIFE recently, they're running 6.2, and I do think it's a little bit better system. So I am excited about it. I will eventually update mine. And for most of you, I was able to create a shortcut on the desktop for easy access to your program. So it's actually gets better. So if you ever do want to update to 6.2 just to have the latest and greatest, let us know. You can send it to us and we'll upgrade it to 6.2. If you do it through TrueRife, they will probably charge you for the new software. And then you'll lose your program and then you'll have to send it to us anyhow. So just send it to us to do it. That's it about that. So if you have further questions about that, you can freely give us a call. Okay, so let's get to the questions here. I watched a video from the Cancer Center for Healing, Irvine, California, called Healing with Voltage, where Dr. Jerry Tennant was interviewed. The theme was that all cells have voltage or charge. The minimum to maintain health is 25 microvolts, and 50 microvolts is needed to heal. When cells get down to 5 microvolts, the polarity can actually flip, resulting in serious disease, including cancer. Dr. Tennant has designed a biomodulator to correct polarity and a biocharger to raise cell voltage. Are you familiar with this treatment center and with these therapies? Are they worth looking into? The treatments I have been receiving do not seem to be having the effect on my prostate cancer progression. And I am now looking at other technologies and clinics where I can ramp things up to manage my condition in new ways. So, Dr. Tennant's book is a great book, Healing with Voltage. I'm very familiar with it. I've talked to him in the past. Actually was going to interview him on one of my podcasts a number of years ago, and somehow the timing didn't work, or we didn't get back together. I think that was right when COVID hit. I actually have one of his biomodulators. And I do agree that there is no argument from a physiology and a physics standpoint that all your cells have a cell charge. It's actually held in the cell membrane, and it can be measured. He uses his biomodulator to measure charge. There's some disagreement whether that is an accurate measurement of cell charge being, but I think it's a beneficial measurement. The way that that is typically agreed upon by scientists to measure cell charge is with a different measurement device. And if anybody on this call has ever been to our office, when we used to have patients in office, we used to measure them by putting little electrodes on their hands and on their feet and measuring the impedance. It's called a bioimpedance test. And it gives what's called a phase angle. And that is a clinically relevant test. There's a lot of research on phase angle and that bioimpedance across cell membranes to measure cell membrane health. Now, his biomodulator is like a teeny mini PEMF device. You don't feel any tingle. Like I said, I have one personally. If someone ever said, and this question has been asked over the years, should I get a biomodulator from Dr. Tennant? Now, understand, I love Dr. Tennant. He's a great Christian man. I really do like him and all the work that he does. But I personally would not buy a biomodulator for treatment. You can get much greater treatment and improving cell membrane health by using PEMF. So when he came out with the biomodulator, PEMF was just starting up and just coming out. They were very, very expensive devices. They're still expensive devices. But finding a clinic near you that does PEMF, if purchasing a PEMF is out of the budget, because they're about $8,000-9,000, so they're pretty expensive devices as well. But a PEMF is a much better tool to increase cell charge and to increase health than the biomodulator is. So if you can do that. Now, in truth, the Rife does more than the biomodulator in increasing cell charge, but the Rife doesn't do as much as a PEMF in increasing cell charge. Now, the PEMF does nothing to kill cancer, so either one of the PEMF nor the biomodulator are a cancer-killing device. They're working just to work on cell charge. So cell charge is a real thing that's measured again in a device called a bioimpedance testing machine, and it's testing for phase angle. Phase angle is measurable device, measurable objective meter to see the health of a person, not specific to cancer, but specific to overall health of a person's. Phase angle is dropping over time. Their health is decreasing over that same time period. All right. So there's other things that I would suggest if a person's thinking of, well, my markers are getting worse. I've been doing the Rife. What else should I be doing? Well, my question would be, are you doing all your supplements? Are you doing your nutrition? Are you dealing with the psychology and the spiritual aspect of your healing? What other, yes, I'm doing all of that. What else could I do? Well, there are other things, devices that you could do, other therapies that you could do. Are you doing coffee enemas? One of the greatest things to help decrease sympathetic drive and increase parasympathetic stimulation, and your vagal nerve of your parasympathetics are what stimulate your immune function to be able to kill cancer cells. Also, are you doing castor oil packs over your liver? Are you working on detoxification pathways? So there's a list of different things that you could go down and do without jumping into buying another piece of equipment. But there's also things that you could do in other clinics near you too. Possibly a vitamin C, high dose vitamin C IVs that we've discussed at depth on these Zoom calls. There's making saunas that you could do that could help you detox. So there's a lot of different things that a person could do. So feel free to schedule a time that we can talk about options for you specifically if things are not going the way you want. The clinic store carries a supplement called Trace Mineral Drops by Concerned Trace. Are these drops okay to take regularly? Okay, so understand some things in our store are not necessarily things that I would recommend. I have never recommended the Trace Mineral Drops to anybody. So I didn't recommend them to the person who asked this question. So why? Well, I want to take a liquid mineral. Why can't I take this? Because all these liquid minerals are chelated in incorrect way. They are elemental minerals. So let me finish the question. Are the drops okay to take regularly if diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma or other cancers? Is the ingredient lithium okay? So lithium is typically okay in a mineral supplement. My struggle with the liquid minerals is that they are all the liquid minerals that I've ever seen are elemental minerals. And the only reason why we carry them in our store is because we've had demand from non-patients asking for them. So we carry them in our store, and our supplier has them so that we ended up putting them on our store. I don't recommend people taking these. And I may actually have put on this, I may not have it on this listing, but on a couple of the other liquid mineral listings, I put on the listing that says Dr. Connors doesn't recommend these minerals, and I put down what I recommend. I don't think we should be consuming elemental minerals that are from the earth. Now, there's the reason is that we're not supposed to eat dirt. We're supposed to eat plants. That's what we get our minerals from, our plants and animals. But when an animal, okay, let's say a cow is eating grass, the cow is getting the minerals from the grass in a form that's different than the soil. The cow doesn't eat dirt. The cow is eating grass, it is getting the mineral that's chelated. So a plant takes a mineral out of the soil and chelates it in a double bond to an amino acid, and then we eat a mineral that's chelated in a double bond into an amino acid. These trace minerals that are liquid minerals are earth minerals. They're not chelated correctly, and they're not a good form of minerals. So long story short, don't use the trace minerals. Use the clear multi-min that we have private label. That's the best mineral out there. Is lithium okay for anybody? Yes, lithium is okay. But minerals are okay for lymphoma patients, just fine, but make sure you get them in the right form, which is the correctly chelated form, which is the Albion minerals, which is the clear multi-min. I've had a history of constipation, even though regularly eating organic vegetable, beans, seeds, and nuts. Taking a magnesium supplement is a common recommendation. The clinic store often offers a large variety of choices. What would be your thoughts on taking magnesium supplements, and which store items would be appropriate for me? My preference is to avoid tablets, pills, or flavored items. Okay, so this is, I think, the same person that asked this question, hence their desire to take this liquid mineral. So I get it. We want to take liquid things that might be easier to take. But with the minerals, you don't really have a choice. And magnesium is a mineral, and you really don't have a choice with that either. So it's going to be in a powdered form. It's going to either be encapsulated or it's going to be in a powdered tub. And you'd have to put it in water. So if you're taking, there's multiple magnesium items on the store because there's different, what is used as the amino acid that is chelated with the magnesium can help the magnesium function differently. Like magnesium threonate would be really good to help you relax your brain and fall asleep. That's why you would take that. Magnesium citrate tends to be a little bit more difficult to absorb, tends to stay in the gut and draws water to it. So typically when a person is dealing with constipation, the first thing you think of is magnesium citrate. However, I prefer magnesium malate because I think it works almost as good for constipation, but magnesium malate can be calming to the brain and can help you rest as well. So I think that's a good medium, is the magnesium malate. Now, our Magna Clear that we have in a powder and in a capsule actually has 3 different kinds of magnesium because the way they're chelated can help different things. And that can help with constipation. So using our Magna Clear either in a powder or in a capsule form, and yes, you'll have to put it in a little smoothie or a drink or something if you can't swallow the capsule. You can certainly open up the capsule if you don't want to buy the powder. But the Magna Clear would be the best one, I think. I recently ran across a product named Salicidium. So Salicidium is a glycobenzaldehyde. So aldehyde is a classification of organic compounds. And glycobenzaldehyde is a type of aldehyde that can help block the glycolysis pathway. So that's where Salicidium ranks. Now, Salicidium, I have read about it years ago. There's an article about it in the Townsend newsletter. That's an alternative newsletter. It has a lot of cancer information in it that I read about a number of years ago. I don't carry it. It's a expensive product, and I just have not carried it in our store, and I haven't tested for it. I did have a bottle years ago when it first came out, and I used to test for it. Didn't test very well, and it ended up expiring, and I got rid of it. And we never ended up carrying it. I never wrote about it in the book because I never really got into using it. But I don't think there's anything wrong with trying something like that. So it has become more available. At that time when I was looking at, the only place you could get it was New Zealand, um, and or Australia. It was Australia or New Zealand. I couldn't remember where we could get it, but it was difficult to get. I think it may be easier to obtain now. But I don't know a whole lot more about it. But I know it works on the glycolysis pathway. When we visited, I told you I had sore axillary node in my right arm. It is swollen and I'm losing strength in it. Any ideas? I'm also trying to do the easy peasy coffee enemas 3 to 4 times a day, but I'm having a hard time holding it. Does it do any good if you can't hold it? So I'll address that first. So even if you could only hold it for 30 seconds and you have to go let it out, yes, you're still stimulating the vagal nerve. So absolutely continue to do it. I mean, if you're just putting it in, it's just you can't hold it at all and it's just running out. You even at that, you're still stimulating the vagal nerve. So I would say, as long as it's not too uncomfortable, I would keep it up. As far as the axillary lymph node, the um, the uh, the if you're losing strength, it must be putting pressure on one of the nerves. So I would, I know you said, I think you said you were using ice on it. I would try a couple different techniques. So if you use ice on something to decrease swelling, if you have swelling around the node, then typically that is what's recommended from a physical therapy standpoint. However, some people react differently to ice and it doesn't work well for them. So if you try alternating hot and cold, like do 2 minutes of ice and then take it off and put a hot pack on there for 2 minutes and alternate back and forth, you might be able to get a pumping action. That's the idea of that. And you could help move that out of there. I would also try some just motion exercises to get flowage of and contraction of muscles to get movement of fluid through there. And just getting some motion in there might be able to get some fluid out of there so that it will take some pressure off the nerve. Because if you're getting weakness in that arm, I would think that it has to do with nerve pressure. So anything you could do to try to decrease inflammation in that area, I think would be best. My diet recommendations from you say no to bone broth, but may I have regular broth homemade or store bought? The reason why we say no to bone broth is because, so understand, bone broth is typically made by steeping bones, chicken bones or beef bones, for a long period of time. And the whole idea is you're drawing the nutrients out of the bone. So bone broth is really big in what's called the GAPS diet. And it was very popular a number of years, became very popular a number of years ago. It still is fairly popular to help heal the gut using bone broth. So a lot of people were into making their own bone broth. They're cooking a chicken, taking all the meat off of it, and then cooking the bones for, a couple of days to make a broth out of that. And then filtering it out and just drinking the broth to help heal the gut. Why does that help heal the gut? Because it has a very high concentration of glutamine in it. And glutamine, L-glutamine, the amino acid, really helps with growth. So when you drink high concentration of glutamine in bone broth, or you take a gut healing supplement that has 3, 4, 5 grams of glutamine, you can really help heal a damaged gut. And that can be very beneficial because L-glutamine really stimulates, especially epithelial cell reproduction. And you'll reproduce new cells, helping heal the gut. Well, if you have it, especially if you have an epithelial-based cancer, you're stimulating growth. So glutamine is a pathway of cancer cell growth. So you don't want to do bone broth in general. Now, there's nothing wrong with, I made soup. Should I not make soup? Because I make soup with the whole chicken and I boil it and then I take the meat off the bone. Well, usually you take the bone out then and you put the meat back in the pot and you add your vegetables and such, and then you eat the soup. So you're not getting this super high concentration of glutamine. If you're purposely making bone broth, the idea and the whole purpose of making bone broth is to draw as much glutamine out of the bone as possible so that it is healing to your gut. So no, whether you buy store-bought bone broth or you buy or you make homemade bone broth, it's really a no to bone broth. But you can have soup, just don't make bone broths. Have you heard of Bing De Ling? It is a Chinese herb for cancer. Also, is the oil, okay, there's many different Chinese herbs that I haven't gotten into for cancer, and it partly has to do with the purity and quality of those herbs and how to be able to obtain those. So there are some of the Chinese herbs that are herbs that we use in our different herbal products, but they're a different name. There's a lot of the Chinese herbs are herbs that are solely Chinese herbs that aren't herbs that are used in really very many other countries, and certainly not North America. So am I against trying any of the Chinese herbs? No, absolutely not. If you feel led to try one of those, and we have a couple patients maybe that are on this call that are working with a Chinese doctor or acupuncturist that are getting Chinese herbs from them as well. So I have no trouble with you doing that. Also, is it the oil drops that you recommended from 5cbd.com? Yes, that is the 5cbd.com. That's what I said you could give it a try. The gummies I had didn't work at all, made me wired most of the time. So let's talk about that. So if a person is doing gummies, this person is talking about using THC to help with pain and to help with sleep. In general, CBD and THC can be beneficial to decrease anxiety, decrease pain, increase relaxation, and help with sleep. Now understand the difference between CBD and THC. So THC is the psychoactive component of hemp or marijuana. THC is typically from marijuana. CBD, just about any CBD on the market today is from hemp, not from marijuana. So hemp and marijuana are in the same family, but they are not the same plant. So hemp does have a little bit of THC in it, but nothing that would change your psyche in any way. THC from marijuana is psychoactive, and it has other benefits. So there's a benefit to both. If a person has high amounts of pain, and they might be on some medication for pain, and they're trying to decrease that medication, and they ask, can I start taking high dose CBD to decrease the pain? The answer is, in my experience, no. Even if you take very, very, very high doses of CBD, it's really not going to cut the pain if you're on a pain medication. If a person has very mild pain from muscle exertion or something like that, and they take CBD, they might get some relaxation in the muscle and they might have a decrease in the pain. But if you have pain from cancer, from metastasis, and you're at a point of having to take medication for that pain, CBD is not going to work. Will THC decrease pain in an instance like that? The answer is, on many people, yes. But the form of that THC is going to need to be experimented with. So the THC in different gummies is going to be absorbed at different rates. So when you take THC with something sweet like a gummy, you will absorb it very quickly. And you'll get a spike of THC in the bloodstream, which a lot of people like. Typically, gummies with THC are used recreationally for people. Okay, so personally, if you were with me a few years ago, I think I shared on the Zoom call my experience with THC, which quite honestly was downright hilarious for everybody but me. So when I was super sick, I did the high dose THC in the form of Rick Simpson oil, which was not a gummy. It was it's a paste, and it's like a tar that's in a squirt tube, like a syringe, that you have to syringe out because it's literally like tar, and you have to squirt it out onto your finger, and you have to bite it off your finger basically because it doesn't dissolve in your saliva, and you have to suck the tar off of your finger. It's very, very high concentrated THC, and I actually took too much, and there's a hilarious story about that, but that's another story. So that form of THC in that higher concentration is that's called Rick Simpson's oil, and that is used to kill cancer, but it has the high degree of side effects of making you so stinky loopy that you could regret taking it. But there's been tons and tons and tons of stories of people that have quote unquote put themselves into remission using Rick Simpson oil. So I'm not against using Rick Simpson oil by any stretch of the imagination. We just can't legally sell it here. But we can talk about it. So that's a choice. Now, that's using THC for the purpose of killing cancer. That's not using THC for the purpose of pain. However, there's people that have been on Rick Simpson before, had success, and maybe their cancer is kind of raising its ugly head again, and their pain is really bad, and they'll use a little bit of the Rick Simpson oil, which is the tar THC, high concentration THC, to help with pain, and they get some relief for that. Now, different people have different tolerance levels. I mean, I never take drugs. I've never done recreational drugs. I've never smoked anything. I'm like a complete novice in that. So my story taking too much of the Rick Simpson oil because it sat in the car on a summer day, and I got home and it squirted way too much onto my finger, and I took it and I was completely loopy, and it was a funny story, was not a good experience and made me not want to try that again. If my cancer ever raises its ugly head again, would I ever try Rick Simpson oil again? I would, because there's no, I mean, besides it making you feel weird and loopy, it can't really hurt you. Now, this person isn't even asking that question, but I just wanted to address this. We haven't talked about this for a while using Rick Simpson oil and or THC. So this person is talking about using a much lower concentration of THC to help with pain. So I gave this person this website, 5cbd.com, because this website sells low dose THC CBD combinations in different combinations, and they have a license to do that, and you could buy it from them in every state, I think. So you could order it online from them. They have, I think, up to 10 milligrams THC, and it's always in a combination. So if you do it in a gummy, you're going to get a spike, because when THC is in a sugar, you're going to absorb it very quickly, and it's going to stay in your system a short period of time. So you're going to get a spike of THC in your system And that's why people take it recreational in a gummy. They feel all loopy and fun, and I guess that's enjoyable. To me, it was not enjoyable, but I guess that's really enjoyable to some people, and it's great. But I have had people use the gummy to help them sleep. They just want a spike of THC to calm their brain so they can fall asleep. However, people react differently to THC. Some people, it's going to make them, some people only 2 milligrams is going to be perfect to help them sleep. Some people 5 milligrams, some people 10 milligrams. Some people can't do the gummies at all because they can't tolerate the spike. If that's the case, then you should take it either in an oil, and this company sells droppers in an oil, so it's not sugar, and you'll get a slower curve of THC absorbing. It'll stay in your system longer, but at a lower level, and then it'll drop off. So for this person who did not tolerate, if you tried THC in the past and you didn't tolerate it, look at taking it in a different form. I took gummies before. Well, gummies are going to be in a sugar form. It's going to be a high spike and a drop. Well, then try it in a liquid form that's in a oil, or bake it in a baked good, but typically that's going to be a sugar, or take it in what's called a butter, which is in a fat. So take it in a fat, or eat some fatty food like peanut butter or something, and then use a liquid dropper of that. So you got to try different forms. You got to experiment with it to see what will work, and you got to experiment with what to see what the dosage, milligram dosage, will be best for you, because honestly, it's different for everybody. Everybody's system is different. Everybody's tolerance to THC is different. You're going to have to try it. But if you've tried gummies and you didn't like gummies, you probably won't like gummies from any other source. Try a different, in a liquid form, oil form, or taking it with a fat, something like that. Okay, next question. I am wondering if sauna is appropriate for someone diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I've read different views. If appropriate, is there a particular brand to use? So with lymphoma, a sauna, there's different views of this. So a sauna with lymphoma, because a sauna is going to, it can increase swelling, right? So that's the whole idea. You got heat. So with any heat, you could increase some swelling. If you have a lymphoma at a certain site, it could appear to get bigger and it could get irritated. That's not with everybody. We have people, maybe even on this call, that have lymphoma that have used the sauna and felt fantastic afterwards. It gets down to the point of why you're using a sauna. The purpose of using a sauna is to sweat, to help you detox, to take pressure off of your liver and your kidneys. And that's the purpose of the sauna. I think where people have a bad experience with a sauna, and it's not just lymphoma patients, it is when they try it too quickly, too much, for too long. So with any sauna, you should try it for a short period of time. You get in there for 5 minutes. You do 5 minutes until you can tolerate that just fine. I did fine with that. I'm going to try to do 7 minutes the next time. The next day, I'm going to try to do 8 minutes. You gradually move up with the sauna. That's what I would recommend. And you don't try to do too high of a heat. I typically recommend just 140 degrees in the sauna. What brand to use? We have people on this call that have, many of them have saunas, and they all have different brands of sauna. Really, there's saunas that are out there that are boast that they're this far infrared sauna, or they're this mixed infrared sauna, or they're a near infrared sauna, and this is why it's better, blah, blah, blah. The truth is, all the infrared saunas really have very little infrared at all. So don't get caught up on that aspect at all. The purpose of the sauna is not to get infrared, because in truth, none of the saunas have very much infrared. Literally a 5-inch by 6-inch infrared plate costs about $4,000. So when you buy a sauna for $1,000 or $1,500, and it's because they're boasting about a type of infrared, there's literally almost no infrared coming out of that plate. That's just not, it's just not true. So don't get hung up on that piece. The purpose of a sauna is not to get infrared. The purpose of sauna is to get heat. And the purpose of sauna is to heat up your body so you sweat. And the purpose of that is to take pressure off your liver and your kidneys so you're detoxing through your skin. So your skin is an organ of detoxification, but it's only an organ of detoxification if you're using the sweat glands. So if you go outside in the summer and you're working in the garden and you're sweating and you are, working up a really good sweat, you don't need to take a sauna today. So I have a sauna. I don't use it in the summer at all. So, because I'm outside sweating. So, that being said, what kind of sauna should you get? Well, personally, I like the saunas where that zip up and your head is exposed. Because of my sinus conditions, I do not like to go in a enclosed sauna where I'm in it. My head gets stuffy, my sinuses get stuffy, and I get a little bit claustrophobic because of that. And I don't feel good in it. I want to get out after 5 minutes. Now, my sauna that I zip up and my head is exposed, I feel like I can breathe. I can stay in that much longer. Again, when I start doing the sauna again this winter, I will start probably at 5 minutes. Maybe I'll tolerate 10 minutes right away now because I've been doing it a number of years, and I'll use it like that, but I'll still only do a maximum of about 30 minutes. I that's what I recommend. Personally, I only do a maximum of about 20 minutes. Um, so, but so those saunas, the nice thing about those zip up saunas is they're a lot cheaper too, and they heat up a lot faster. But if you have access to one of those wooden snap together saunas that are really, really popular and they sell at Costco and things like that, and somebody's going to give you one of those, just use that. If you look on Craigslist, sometimes you can find a used sauna because people buy it with the greatest desires, and they used it 3 times and it becomes something that they hang their clothes on, and they finally, their wife says, we got to get rid of that dumb thing. So lots of times you can find them used for really cheap. So look at sauna, but you got to, if you've never tried sauna, I would try it. Find somebody that has one and try one first because you might hate it. And it's not just with lymphoma. With some cancers, let's say a metastasis to an axillary lymph node, a sauna might make it worse. Like the person who asked the question before, it might make it feel worse. It kind of feels more swollen, and they don't like it. So you have to try it, and that's why a lot of things there are mixed views on it, because the truth is what works for one person doesn't work for another person. And I bet you if we open up the phone line, there'd be a bunch of people that say, oh, I have this and I love my sauna. And other people say, I don't like sauna. I just don't do it. So everybody's different. So you got to just give it a shot. And as far as low EMF unit, I don't know. I've tested our one that we have on our store, and for EMFs in it, it is very low EMF. I don't know. I haven't tested the other ones on the market. So we do sell the zip up one, and it's just drop shipped from the manufacturer. And if you do want it from us, you have to. We used to sell it for 10% off because I just want to sell it at cost. But then the company that we buy it from called us. Actually, this is about 6 months ago or so. Called us, said you can't sell it for cheaper. This is it's going against all of the people that sell it. So if you do buy it from us, call us and we'll give you a 10% off of the sauna. We just can't put it on the store at that price. This is a reminder, if you're taking iron for low hemoglobin, low iron, anemia, make sure you're also taking artemisinin with your iron. You should take one of these with, at least one of these with each iron capsule that you're taking. Okay, questions that you asked. Again, if you're new to the Zoom call, you can chat in a question, and that's what we're going to answer right now. In my most recent cheek swab, you told me to begin eating 130 to 150 grams of protein a day. This seems overwhelming. I know. I know it does. I know it does. It's very overwhelming. What are good ways of getting protein in your diet over the course of the day? I have been only eating 1 4-ounce serving of meat a day for 18 months. So just all of the research that has been coming out about grams of protein necessary to stimulate lymphocyte function. So in order, you can have normal white blood cell count on a CBC, normal lymphocyte count on a CBC, but we're talking about lymphocyte function is completely dependent upon protein levels. And the research coming out is when you increase protein levels, you increase the activity of natural killer cells and your T cells, which are so important, which are everything when it comes to killing cancer. So we've really changed our tune the last 6 months, and I've written some blog posts about this, about what has been shown to increase activity is when you eat the number of grams of protein equivalent to your weight. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you should eat 200 grams of protein a day. And that seems overwhelming, and it's almost impossible if you're a vegetarian. It's very, very difficult. So I just want you to strive to that, and you're going to have to take some working up to that, and make sure if you haven't been eating a lot of meat and you start eating some meat, that you do incorporate some digestive enzymes with your meals, because you don't want to get constipated. So if your system has not been accustomed to eating a lot of protein, you may need some digestive enzymes to help with the breakdown of that protein so you absorb it better. So work on just work towards that. Don't think you're gonna do that right away. Unfortunately, my cancer markers have just gone up a bit. Okay, so maybe we want to chat about anything we need to tweak with that. I know you have to be careful commenting on medicine, but can you comment on what cancer patients seem to benefit from the off-label drug fenbendazole? Have you ever seen it help someone with ovarian cancer? We have a number of our members on fenbendazole, and because it's an over-the-counter medication, I have no trouble recommending it. And so when we test for it, so if it tests positive, I tell people to take it. So we have dozens of members on it. But granted, ovarian cancer, we don't have dozens and dozens of ovarian cancer patients. And I don't, on the top of my head, recall that I ever had anybody on it with ovarian cancer. That being said, I mean, there's almost no, I say almost, no downside to taking fenbendazole. So it's not a drug that's hard on your liver. It's a drug that's been out for decades. Um, the amount that you're taking is, equivalent to what you'd give a 10-pound dog. So you're taking, really, it should be called low dose fenbend or something like that, because you're taking a very low dose of the fenbendazole with the Joe Tippins protocol. So I see no problem in adding fenbendazole um, to your to anybody's protocol. It's really going to hurt you. So I've had one person over all the years that we've been using fenbendazole say that it caused a stomach ache or a stomach upset. They felt nauseous with it, but I'm not actually sure that that was the culprit. Any supplement could cause stomach upset if you took it on an empty stomach. The capsule itself would be probably the culprit of that. Some people have sensitivity to capsules. So I don't see any harm in taking it. I can't remember off the top of my head if I remember having somebody with ovarian cancer take it. So I can't answer that, but I don't think there's any harm in giving it a try. It's certainly a worthy um, fighter of cancer. That and ivermectin as well, I should say. Ivermectin, I have to be a little bit more careful commenting on. I can comment on it on this, like a Zoom call like this, but recommending it in your protocol, I have to be a little more careful with that because that is a prescription medication. Um, but ivermectin is another drug that's been out for decades and decades. Yeah, it is different than bendazole. It works on a little bit different pathway. But we have a lot of patients that are taking both bendazole and ivermectin, and I don't know. You just, you never know. Like, okay, we're doing really good. The cancer's, not growing. How do you know what it is? You know, is it the Rife? Is it the curcumin? Is it bendazole? Is it the person is usually doing a lot of things. So the it's not a matter of of figuring out what it is. That it's probably the combination of things that created the result that you want to have. And the same thing, if you're not doing well, you need to tweak your protocol because this might be a combination of some other little twist or tweak. And that's always been my promise to all of you, is that I'm willing to twist and tweak and figure out and learn and grow and try different things as much as we can to help you. I cannot guarantee the results that we want to have, but I guarantee that I'll not ever stop trying and learning. Can I send results to you to info@connersclinic.com? Yes, you can send it to info@connersclinic.com, labs at drclinic@connersclinic.com, or Dr. Connors at connersclinic.com. They're all aliases to Dr. Connors at connersclinic.com. They all go to my clinic email. So labs or info, same thing. Send the labs to there. Is it okay to take Avamar on the day of chemo? Yes, you can, because Avamar is not a antioxidant. So good question. Yes, you can take that. One of my friends had Rick Simpson oil to treat his cancer, and he was supposed to do it every day, and he just decided not to do it because he didn't like the THC, and he basically got too high on suggested dose, i.e., he couldn't tolerate it. I bought some from him to apply to basal cell cancer skin lesion, but it was so sticky it stopped after I stopped after a short while. So thanks for sharing your experience. Yeah, that's the biggest reason why people stop the Rick Simpson protocol, is because it's very, very high dosage. You're supposed to be taking 3 grains of rice 3 times a day. You're up to a gram a day. I think that's equivalent to it. The question before, that person was taking a gummy that was 10 milligrams. A gram is pretty high compared to 10 milligrams. Okay, so gram is 1,000 milligrams. That is an enormous amount. It's I've had some patients. I don't think anybody on here is on Rick Simpson oil right now, but maybe you have tried it in the past. Well, we've had patients in the past that have used Rick Simpson oil successfully. But I'll tell you, for every one person that used it successfully, 5 people have used it and quit. So it wasn't that it was unsuccessful, it's that they couldn't tolerate it. And I mean, literally, I took too much the first dose, because you're supposed to start with just a half a grain of rice and work up, and I accidentally squirted out too much, and I probably had 3 grains of rice on my first dose. And it was, there's just like, I had to detox from it for a week before I try it again. And then I tried it again at a very low dose. Quite honestly, I just didn't like the way it made me feel. And I told my staff, I said, forget it. I would rather die than have to go through that. But it's not true. I would try it again if that, if I had to, but it really knocked me for a loop. But again, I'm very much a novice when it comes to any drugs, and I was just not used to taking it. I've talked to people, and we've had patients that have used marijuana in the past recreationally, and they tolerated it just fine. So I do think that it has to do with different tolerance levels that you may have worked up to too. I have my first chemo tomorrow. I'm fasting today. My tumor pain is more intense when I'm hungry. Is there anything I can take for pain that won't mess up the effect of fasting for chemo? Ibuprofen, THC gummies, other. Well, you can take a medication or you can take THC that won't mess up your fasting. So if you can think of fasting as not having food so your cells are hungry, okay? You can think of it in a cartoon like that. So if you take any food in, um, then you're breaking your fast and you're kind of feeding your cells so they're not going to be as hungry when you take the chemo. But if you're taking a medication, then that's just not the case. Some people even say that you can take your supplements while you fast. I think you should just really try to make your cancer cells as hungry as possible. So also, I am underweight, so fasting makes me feel very weak. Is there anything I can have that won't mess with the effects of fasting on chemo? Coconut oil, tea, coffee, other. Um, uh, Again, there's differences of opinion with that. I'd say coconut oil, um, maybe, but coconut oil is a fat that's going to break down into a fuel source. So I'd say no on the coconut oil. Many people on fasts will still drink tea uh, without any dairy product or anything like that in it. So just straight tea or straight black coffee. And technically, you're not breaking a fast by drinking black coffee or just tea, herbal tea. So I'd say, yeah, if that makes you feel better, using some herbal tea or some coffee without any creamer or anything, and even a non-dairy creamer, you're probably just fine. Dr. Connor's HealthyDrops.com has liposomal now. Does your store carry this? I found out yesterday that I could take with artemisinin and protocol. Sorry, got cut off. Have you heard of HealthyDrops.net? I don't know what HealthyDrops.net is, and I don't know if you're talking about again THC, CBD, or um, what liposomal you're taking, or liposomal curcumin. Um, I'm not sure what you're asking. I will look up. I'm looking up healthy drops. Now they're just different oils. Um, it's it just seems like they are different cold pressed oils. Um, Don't look like they have anything in them. It's healthydrops.net. Um, I'm not sure what you're asking there. All right, you can clarify that. I can finish that with all the artemisinin protocols that this company uses. And I'm I'm at healthy. Maybe it's healthy. I'm not at the right website. Oh, here we go. Healthy drops and healthy drop are two different websites. Okay, so I will look at that offline. I'll look at that tomorrow and get back to you, Mark, on that. All right, looks like we're up for our time for today. And thank you all for being with. Make sure you're not shy in asking questions um, on the member site and looking up anything else that you might find on a blog post if you have a question that's burning. All right, thanks everybody for being on today. Know that I'm praying for all of you and on a daily basis, and I love all of you. So have a good night. Bye-bye.